Hello and welcome to the Overwatch Pacific Championship English broadcast, week 5, day number 2. And tonight, 4 matches lined up for you there. We're going to be having Flash Wolves coming up back-to-back against DeToNator.GOLD and Blank Esports. After that, we're going to be having Marchi take on Blank Esports. And then coming up with the boys from Hong Kong with all the attitude, it's going to be HKA. I'm Dallas Easy Fight Today. Joining me again tonight, it's going to be Matt Smite Ross and Kevin Avril Walker.
I'm a worker too.
He is a hard worker, you know, you can't take that away from him. Man, that was just a big spiel I had going there, you know, like I nearly nailed it, but just nearly there. But now, obviously, first up, it is indeed going to be Flash Wolves taking on DeToNator.GOLD. Taking a look at them real quick. Now, Flash Wolves, I mean, one of these teams that have been looking strong at the beginning, now slightly falling into a little bit of a struggle. Tonight's going to be a night for them to really set the tone. Obviously, first match coming up against DeToNator.GOLD. This should be the walk in the park for Flash Wolves.
And just like it said, 6-3 is their current record, and you got to look at where those 3 losses came from. One against Blank, not totally unexpected. The other 2, one against AHQ, again, maybe not super unexpected. However, the last one against Marchi, they had a rough week last week. And for DeToNator, now that we're seeing them on screen as well, we saw them last night, and they had some moments of success against Fiber, but overall, you got to say, still a really shaky journey for DeToNator so far. But I think the team to really look out for still tonight has to be Flash Wolves. How far have they improved since last week? What have they done to sort of change up the problems and fix up the issues that really held them back with the upsets last week?
Well, I feel, you know, they get, I'd call it a little bit of a warm-up, you know, coming up against DeToNator.GOLD, unless DeToNator.GOLD have made some immense changes compared to last night. But I think that real test is going to be when they come up against Blank Esports in the likes of Blank obviously dropping that match to AHQ last night. I was about to say, hello, mate.
Yeah, no, but it's good, that's good.
I think that they're going to really need to set that precedent to, I guess we're really going to see how much they have improved when they come up against Blank. If they drop anything to DeToNator.GOLD, I think that will be, in a way, disappointing for Flash Wolves.
So for Flash Wolves tonight, the first match against DeToNator has to be a 3-0 for them. If it's anything less than a 3-0, they're going to entirely struggle against Blank. AHQ have already set the standard. They've now beaten Flash Wolves. They've now beaten Blank. They've beaten the 2 best competitions, the 2 best other teams in the competition realistically at this stage. Flash Wolves, if they want to stay in the top 3 position, they need to be able to have a superb showing against DeToNator.GOLD. Not even just a win. Has to be a complete 100%, or pretty much like 100% perfect game for them to have any chance against Blank.
And then obviously coming up after that, I mean, Marchi had been making those leaps and bounds, sort of looking like a brand new team in the last couple of showings they've had. You know, they're going to get their shot against Blank as well. And then I think that real big matchup is going to be Marchi taking on Hong Kong Attitude there. You know, both of these teams really sort of fighting for those spots there. And if Marchi do pick that win up, I believe they'll be tied equal there with Hong Kong Attitude.
I think that sort of puts them ahead of Hong Kong Attitude in my books as well, because we did talk about that last night and also last week. Where do these 2 teams sit as well? We know what the top 3 looks like. They're now sort of changing up their placings as well. 4 and 5 have their own little struggle, and whoever wins between Hong Kong Attitude and Marchi, they're going to be the team that are going to start to challenge the top 3, particularly if Flash Wolves don't pick up. But Flash Wolves still look weak after today. I'm expecting Marchi have already beaten them, let's be honest. I'm expecting even for Hong Kong Attitude to start to really challenge Flash Wolves.
And then you've also got to think like, you know, this competition for number 4, that gatekeeper spot. So often it's been Hong Kong Attitude have kept the gate shut. Most specifically on Fireball, right? They've been the team that, after week 1, we thought, hey, this is the team closest to breaking into that top 4, but still Hong Kong Attitude shut them out completely. But week 2, this is a completely different week. We've had different results all over the place, right? So now it's Marchi looking to break into that top 4.
Looking to march on through.
Marchi looking to smash that door down and break through Hong Kong Attitude.
It's going to be a good Marchi.
We've
Yeah.
got some good Marchis tonight.
I've used that pun before too.
Have you?
Yeah.
Oh,
during a match even.
I apologize. I take that one back. Then I'm not going to read.
You can't use it if I've already used it.
I don't want to use anything you've used. So, we're really though, how are we looking for? What's the other? Marchi versus Blank is going to be interesting too. I don't know if we've really covered that one, but so Blank obviously a little bit of a tough night last night. It wasn't like a super.
I think they just
rough
felt
night.
too
It wasn't like I think Blank versus Hong Kong Attitude was a much tougher evening for them in the sense that they looked a lot weaker. Now they still looked strong against HQ, so I'd like to see Machi now after a win against Flash Wolves, how good do they look against Blank? We've said this before, this is a bit of a measuring stick as well. That's the standard now. How well you do against Blank almost sets a standard for where your placing is in the tournament.
Yeah, and Machi, while still on paper, we're not expecting an actual win to come out in the series today. They're not favored at all. They should definitely be able to start looking at taking maps off of Blank. I mean, AHQ can do it, Flash Wolves can do it, and even Hong Kong Attitude can do it. Maybe not in week 2, but in round 2, sorry. But Machi, if they want to start playing with the big boys, you've got to be able to start taking maps off of Blank. I mean, what are you here if you're not here to win, right? You've got to eventually start going for that top spot. And yeah, it's going to start with actually taking maps off of Blank and then eventually beating them. But Machi's goal tonight should definitely to be taking maps off of Blank. They can definitely be happy with 1. They can be ecstatic with 2, and I
don't feel with 3.
I don't know how anyone's going to feel.
I think 1 would be a good victory for Machi.
Yeah.
We're not even going to talk about 2 because
probably not going to happen.
I don't see much as that's different because it's AHQ, and AHQ are currently looking, their form is so good. It's not, to be honest, I expected a good result from Machi. For them to get a win was not totally unexpected, but definitely a surprise. Now, Machi getting a win would be nigh impossible. I think they're a team that are looking good, but not that good. Not yet.
Yeah, I mean, in round 2, our only really surprising result, I've got to say, was against Flash Wolves, because the only thing after that we've seen, their other 2 wins in the second round, have been against both of the Japan teams. And so like, it's great, it's expected that they were meant to beat them, but they haven't been tested against Hong Kong Attitude, AHQ, even Blank yet. So really, we haven't seen any result from them that hasn't been just against Flash Wolves. And Flash Wolves as well, let's remember, they dropped that series to AHQ as well. So maybe it was just Flash Wolves not looking too hot on that day specifically. We've talked about this a little bit as well.
That's exactly the case.
And that's what it could be, right? So Machi, while the results looking spectacular for the second round, we've still only seen them tested against one top 3 team, top 4 team even.
Flash Wolves are going to be playing on the home side for both of their games this evening, so I guess they will have a little bit of an advantage coming into both of these matches. They definitely are going to try and set that sort of, I guess, the tone, coming up against DeToNator, looking to get that 3-0. And when they come up against Blank, though, I feel like Blank's map pool is just a little bit deeper. So I feel the home advantage doesn't give them too much to lean on when it comes into that Blank matchup.
The only thing that really favors for a team is that if obviously you know the schedule ahead of time, and you know when you're on the home side, even the away side, what game modes you're going to be picking. Because you know what game modes you're going to be picking, you can specifically practice the maps you want to play for the game mode. So there's always that to sort of factor in for each team, how the picking strategy really comes in. For example, if you're playing on Assault, you're going to practice 1 out of 3 maps, and you're not going to practice the other 2 because you don't need to.
Yeah, that's fair. I mean, also Flash Wolves being home side means that they do get to pick control, which is, I've got to say, not the hugest advantage, seeing as most teams have just been opting to pick Lijiang Tower. There's been a few teams breaking away from that, picking things like Ilios, sometimes Nepal, even if you're Fireball and want to throw curveballs at the other teams. But Flash Wolves, I'm pretty sure they're just going to pick Lijiang Tower.
Well, interesting that obviously something we've sort of talked about and seen a lot of teams doing is, I guess, the players sort of changing up their roles and the characters that they play. DeToNator.GOLD being one of those prime examples of that, really sort of switching around who plays what. And so it's going to be interesting to see now coming up against Flash Wolves. I believe this is obviously the second time they've met them here. So how these sort of different players, is now that they've changed their roles up, is this going to give them any more of an edge, I suppose?
Just real quick as well, you know what? Flash Wolves have been the team that have, on a pretty regular kind of basis now, picked Oasis on control. Just as far as you say, Lijiang Tower, like, that's been the most common pick throughout. But for Flash Wolves, they've had a decent number of picks specifically on Oasis, so I wouldn't be surprised with that at all. And speaking to the point about, these teams now changing up players in terms of their roles, we saw that with K-Momo last week on Flash Wolves as well. He's picked up the DPS role on Flash Wolves, and to be honest, I wasn't really feeling that last week at all. I wasn't feeling a decent amount of the changes from Flash Wolves last week. It felt kind of forced. It felt like unrefined, unpracticed, and the results kind of speak for themselves. They were underprepared.
speaking of role changes as well, let's look at what's been coming out of DeToNator, right? Yoshiharu, this guy who last night I literally hyped him up as one of my favorite D.Va players, barely played D.Va at all last night. He was put onto Soldier. DeToNator started running.
You got a new favorite D.Va now.
Exactly, Lazy Titan, definitely the best. But Yoshiharu though, if he does bring it out, it'll be fantastic. It's a great D.Va, great defensive player. But the thing we've got to talk about is he was playing Soldier last night most often because DeToNator have started running triple DPS. They're trying to emulate what some of these teams up in the top 3 have been running, and I'm expecting to not see a D.Va once more. They're going to be running triple DPS against Flash Wolves. The big thing that's going to mean is that Zonda is going to have a whole lot more room to work with. And he's a very demanding Soldier player.
And speaking of Zonda, this is now the Zonda problem for Flash Wolves. He's the best player on their team, without a doubt. But also that makes him the most restrictive sort of factor in the team as well, because like I said before, he's so good on that team, you want Zonda to play everything. And whatever Zonda doesn't play feels lacking on that team, and that's kind of been the truth. Zonda doesn't play Soldier, K-Momo does, don't get the same result. Zonda plays Soldier, fantastic. Zonda plays Genji, fantastic. Zonda plays anything on that team, great. When he doesn't, when someone else has to play, just doesn't have the same result, and that's been an issue. The only real kind of workaround is when Bacon Jake plays Tracer. That's been fantastic. We haven't needed Zonda to play Tracer yet because Bacon Jake has been such a fantastic Tracer. But outside of Bacon Jake, Tracer, and Zonda, either Soldier or Genji, that's when Flash Wolves have struggled to find something else that's outside of that composition.
And so Flash Wolves have indeed picked Lijiang Tower, as Smite did call, so opting away from that Oasis there. And the thing to note there as well is DeToNator had quite a strong performance last night on Lijiang Tower, obviously picking up the first map against Fireball there. So DeToNator going to be a little bit more, I'd say, well practiced, maybe prepared, warmed up coming into this first map here. But I mean, coming up against the likes of Flash Wolves, this is a team on a completely different level compared to Fireball.
We'll see if they are, because, you know, like I said, they had a lot to work on from last week, and they'd definitely be back with they'd have to be back with a bit of a vengeance, I'd say. They have to be back with a point to prove that they want their #1 spot back in Taiwan.
DeToNator also had probably their best shot against a team that isn't Sun Sister last night against Fireball, and that was still only taking 1 map. It was Lijiang Tower, so it's a great result, but like you said, Flash Wolves, these guys, even with their poor performance last week, are still on another tier. They're still sitting in the top 3. The results are still speaking for themselves. This is still an incredibly uphill battle for DeToNator.GOLD. It's going to be very hard for them to win, especially if I expect them to run that triple DPS composition again. They don't have the D.Va to shut down Zonda.
Unless they decide to change the D.Va, which that might be a suggestion, that might be a recommendation for DeToNator to do. It might be a bit risky for them to pull out triple DPS when, to be really honest, I don't think their DPS stack up in comparison.
I'd agree. I would definitely agree, but I still feel like DeToNator, I've just got this feeling, right, that they are going to run triple DPS again. They had good results against Fireball, and perhaps maybe they're thinking it's going to work once more.
You might just be right. Have a look.
Oh, we're getting into this one, and it looks like Smitey Boy is indeed correct. It is going to be DeToNator running with that triple DPS. Let's see how Zonda's going to be able to deal with this one and the rest of the Flash Wolves side.
So Yoshiharu, I've talked about him being a fantastic D.Va player. He had some good play on Soldier last night, but I've got to say, it was acceptable. That was about it. But now DeToNator, they're getting an early lead again.
They just dive right on top of Zonda, take him out, but the rest of Flash Wolves are there to pick up the pieces and pick up these fallen parts. And supports just picking up a couple of kills themselves here. And K-Momo now getting in a very good position to get aggressive into the squishy line of DeToNator. But it's going to be Yoshiharu not playing that D.Va on the Soldier, picking out a couple for himself. Now K-Momo being forced back out of this fight here. And this first cap should be going in the way of DeToNator unless Flash Wolves can come up with something big here.
It's still going back and forth, and DeToNator, while they've got themselves actually on the point of getting the cap, in fact, actually those last few kills there are just actually going to seal it for them there. So actually, yes, DeToNator, now they're sitting nice and comfortable, entrenched on the point with ultimates coming up soon. I mean, Anakin, he needs that Dragon Blade. That's going to be the biggest thing for them to hold on. Also, Yoshiharu, the benefit of running a triple DPS composition is that you have multiple very impactful ultimates. So Yoshiharu with that tactical visor won't have a nano boost to go with it, but not sure if he's even going to need it against a Tracer, against another Soldier. Surely he's going to be fine. There's no D.Va on the enemy team to block it out. He's going to have complete free reign.
Well, pulse bombs on both sides, looking to see if either of these can open it up, but Zonda opens this one up with that Helix rocket there. So Hate dropping down extremely low, gets taken out of this one as well. This is when DeToNator are definitely going to need to fall back here, as Flash Wolves find the answer they were looking for, managed to push themselves and get themselves the cap there. So great stuff now coming out from Flash Wolves. DeToNator only getting themselves 30 37%.
Oh, DeToNator, that was a fight where you did have a bit of a lead there. You had more ultimates ready to go, just perhaps not a little bit, not aggressive enough. Now Flash Wolves go in, they don't commit any ultimates at all. They're now sitting on the point with 5 ultimates. Sound Barrier is still making its way up, and once that's ready, it's going to be very hard for DeToNator to actually come in and take control of the point once more. They have Anakin, they've got Tactical Wise are shut down.
Coming through right there, it's going to be Yoshiharu committing his, but Zonda's is a lot stronger. Transcendence is now coming from both players here. Now Zonda up on this high ground, so hard to deal with. It's going to be Anakin using the Dragon Blade as well, but the rest of the side of DeToNator are just falling down here, and this is going to be an easy hold coming up from Flash Wolves, and they still have a lot of ultimates to work with Smite.
And Zonda, I mean, with the way DeToNator's playing, Zonda pretty much doesn't have to move. He can just sit up there, just lay down the left clicks on DeToNator, and there's not much they can do about it. All they've got is Samurai D to jump up there. Anakin, sure, he can go up there as well, but doesn't have Dragon Blade, will just eventually be shut down. I mean, yes, he's getting challenged up here now, and this is what DeToNator need to do. They need to get Zonda out of his comfort zone.
But he isn't too worried, it seems, as he's managed to find that kill on Samurai D as he jumps up there. A lot of pressure being put onto Yoshiharu there as well. And where is this DeToNator side? They can't find a single opening here. They are starting to look like they can find the pieces to fix this problem that on the high ground there, but as they start the fight, there's absolutely nothing they can do. The organization coming up from the Flash Wolves side is just far superior.
Well, they kind of half committed onto Zonda, right? And Flash Wolves punished them hard for it. Zonda just turned around and got a kill onto Samurai D, and from there it was simply easy numbers, right? 65, you're gonna win. Flash Wolves still hardly having to commit ultimates, and now we're coming up to 85%. This is DeToNator's last shot, and ultimates are still coming up for Flash Wolves.
Oh, and Anakin gets taken out early into this fight. Pulse Bomb gets thrown out there as well. Doesn't find anything with that one. Bacon Jack won't be too worried now. Now Yoshiharu in an extremely bothersome spot. See ya, mate. Gets taken off the edge there. Great positioning coming out from Zhongi there, and this is just going to be disaster for DeToNator. It looks like they're not going to be able to find anything into this fight. They get themselves a little bit of a consolation kill, almost getting themselves the cap actually, but now Flash Wolves should be able to answer back into this one. No, they can't. There's no one there. Zhongi cannot stagger the point enough, and DeToNator keep this one alive.
Yeah, I mean, the fight went on for so long that the early death from DeToNator just allowed them to respawn in and get there. Now, they still committed a few ultimates here and there, Sound Barrier being the big one. They don't have any tools to go up against Flash Wolves, who not only get a pick at the start of this fight, but still have 4 ultimates, 2 of them being big DPS ults.
Now watch for Bacon Jack's position here, managing to get himself up in the back lines of DeToNator. It's going to be very easy for him to be the thorn in the side that they were looking for. Pressure being put onto him by Saihate, but that's not going to be enough. 4 kills there for Flash Wolves, get themselves back on the cap, the overtime ticking down, and this is going to be Flash Wolves closing out the first stage.
Well, I mean, I think we've seen this story before. DeToNator take hold of the point early on. They get a bit of an advantage, but they don't utilize it. They don't stay in the lead. Flash Wolves just turn around and say, what if we can win a fight without using any ultimates? And then we get on the point, and it's basically like DeToNator were never there. It's like DeToNator never even won the first point, because that 20% that they had early on didn't even matter later on, right? When DeToNator eventually retook the point after another fight, which Flash Wolves I feel like kind of gave away, DeToNator still had a very long way to go, and Flash Wolves still had a big ultimate advantage. They could still come back in, and I mean, they were winning without ultimates before, so when they've got more than the enemy team, surely they're just going to come in and win.
I mean, when they tried to contest Zonda up on the high ground, they didn't even push him off there, and Zonda obviously got that return trade as well onto the Samurai D on the Winston there, so very easy for them. They've got to watch crossing this bridge here. Anything to stop Zonda from concussing them off, nothing indeed. And now this is when Flash Wolves are going to be getting in there. De La V under a lot of pressure. There is a trade coming up from Anakin on that McCree, but it's going to look like Flash Wolves are going to be able to force the issue here. And Realman with the Boopio coming through there, getting himself a double.
And this is going to allow Flash Wolves to push right forward up until this choke point, get a few more stagger kills if they can, and there it is. They get one, and they're just going to move back on, back to the point, back to the bridge where Zonda can hold it. Now Zonda going down in that fight, you could see the way he was flying, just basically not even playing into the fact that the enemy has someone that can dual fire. Anakin on the ground can actually contest it. Zonda is not utilizing sightlines at all, it's just being completely out in the open. Anakin can punish that. He did in the last fight, but Flash Wolves, with the forces on the ground and in the sky, just managed to overrun them. DeToNator were just too cooped up on the bridge. And here they're taking a different approach, trying to nullify Zonda's effectiveness, where he has to get up in those tight spaces where Farah sometimes finds trouble staying alive.
Well, Anakin finds that shot there onto Zonda, and that's going to be an opening now for DeToNator. Hits the Deadeye as well now, seeing if he can get anything with this one. managing to get himself a little lock there, misses that one there, so disaster now for DeToNator. They are going to be pushing in and right into the pulse bomb of Bacon Jack now. This is when DeToNator need to come up with a lot of kills as they don't have much to work with on the ultimate side of things. It's going to be Samurai D finding himself a mech kill there, but Bacon Jack, we've seen him do this before. He's such an annoyance for the side of DeToNator here on this Tracer. They really do not have an answer for him right now. It is going to have to be Anakin, but he hasn't been able to find a sightline on him as he's too busy dealing with Zonda up in the air.
Yeah, Anakin's just too busy looking up at the sky to notice the Tracer running around on the ground. Now DeToNator still haven't capped the point, and ultimates are coming out for Flash Wolves. There's an angry monkey.
That's very good there, managing to take Anakin off this one. Flash Wolves doing all they can to stop DeToNator from getting this cap, but DeToNator do manage to find that one. Pulse bomb coming through. DeToNator finally looking to stabilize and get themselves control of this point now, but it's still just frantic play coming up from Flash Wolves. They do manage to pick themselves up just a couple of extra kills as Flash Wolves retreat there.
And the big thing is DeToNator won that fight even with an ultimate coming out from the Mercy. The Resurrect was there. It wasn't enough for Flash Wolves to swing it in their favor. We also saw Anakin was thrown off the edge and they still managed to win. The sound barrier kept them alive for the longest time. Now Flash Wolves, they've got some things to work with, but they have to get so much mileage out of this pulse bomb. It has to get a kill.
Yeah, Bacon Jack looking to get crispy around the backside there, and it's going to be the pulse bomb cooking up a storm, taking down Samurai D early onto this one. Now Flash Wolves in a great position to take control of this point now, and indeed Zonda finds a couple of rockets. There we go. That's going to be the support down as well. So nothing Samurai D and Yoshiharu can do to hold on to this one. No Primal Rage up just yet, unless Samurai D can get in here very quickly. He does have it now, so there will be a bit of a stall coming out from him. So good stuff here to keep this one alive.
How much stall though? How much time did it actually buy them? About 5%.
Not even.
And then he says, you know what's better than getting 500 hit points worth of ultimate charge? Have double that. Here's 1,000 hit points. And now Flash Wolves are happy to take that. Now DeToNator, what have they got to work with? A self-destruct usually doesn't get kills. Use for zoning and sometimes even just for getting back into the mech. And Deadeye. How often do you actually see Deadeye get a kill? Anakin has had much more effectiveness just shooting Zonda out of the sky. Deadeye is not going to be a huge tool in this fight. Now they can build up to the pulse bomb, and that's really the
Jongi's got them in the white room here with the Primal Rage. You've got to watch out for this one. Zonda unleashing a barrage there as well, but it's going to be K-Momo with that self-destruct. Just cleaning up these players here. Overtime is now indeed ticking down. Nothing on the side of DeToNator to work with. A generous pulse bomb, trying to find something for Saihate there. It's just Yoshiharu just keeping this one alive. Can Samurai D make it back in time? That's the real question right now. Indeed, he does manage to find a pulse bomb right in his face, but ticks it over very, very briefly. Overtime still alive right now, but this is surely got to be Flash Wolves picking up the second stage, and indeed it is.
DeToNator 0-2 down, still not looking like the team we saw last night against Fireball, just not getting the results. In this map, Gardens, they came in with a strategy and they were saying, okay, look, the enemy is going to run afar. Zonda needs to be taken out of the sky, and to his credit, Anakin did just that. He contested Zonda out of the sky, but the rest of his team weren't able to storm the forces on the ground. And also, they weren't taking out Sinclair on the Mercy either. Occasionally, he got a res, and that was actually one of the fights that DeToNator won. So it's good that they're actually doing that, but at the same time, like, I don't think Realment was contested enough at all.
I mean, from what I saw there, DeToNator putting a lot of, I guess, emphasis on trying to take out Zonda, trying to really make him that priority target there, and instead Sinclair getting a lot of time. Just even if he loses his barrow there, isn't too worried. He has a lot of other targets to go with, and obviously Bacon Jack on this Tracer has been such an issue for the side of DeToNator to deal with, but now Anakin on his Genji. Let's see if this is going to be the change that they were looking for.
I'm definitely impressed with Anakin's Genji quite often, but going up against Flash Wolves, I mean, they've got a lot of tools to deal with it. Zonda as well, a very fantastic Genji as well. I think he definitely performs a lot better. Now, DeToNator, they're getting even trades, but Flash Wolves are still starting to pull ahead here.
Well, DeToNator did make, I think, a better decision there, managing to take Sinclair out on the Zenyatta, but he should be able to get himself right back into this fight. And look at that right there. It was K-Momo, when all odds were against him, Saihate pressuring him, manages to find the Helix rocket straight into him. And now DeToNator picking themselves up the first cap, have a lot to work with here, good positioning as well.
Ultimate's kind of spread out around DeToNator though. No one's actually that close to getting their ult up. Specifically Dragonblade, it's only 60%. They're actually closest to Sound Barrier of all things. So if if they can get to that, that's good. In fact, they're actually getting frag kills here, but Bacon Jack, he turns it around.
But Zonda now in a extreme spot of bother, managing to escape right there with that biotic grenade on him as well. Oh, Saihate, thank goodness, manages to find that kill onto him there. That would have been extremely disastrous there for the side of DeToNator if they didn't manage to pick that one up. But now Flash Wolves answering back with force here. They push themselves in. They should easily get this cap and really punishing DeToNator on that piece of overcommitment.
Yeah, I mean, they're trying to go into contested just a little bit longer, but eventually it's going to go over, back to Flash Wolves, or 2 Flash Wolves for the first time. Now this time, DeToNator actually have ults, but because of how that first fight went, wasn't one-sided enough, and in fact, just the ultimates were spread out over DeToNator. They didn't have any real advantage in going in. They got 2 frags off the start, which I thought was really going to secure it for them, but Bacon Jack with a pulse bomb, much like how DeToNator get a pulse bomb here, should be enough for them to go in for a win.
Oh, Nanoblade into the Transcendence. Now, this is going to be very bad for Amiken. He actually finds that kill onto Zonda, so that is quite big there. They commit the sound barrier as well, so this is all in now for DeToNator. They do have the Primal Rage Lift to work with as well. It is going to be used by Samurai D. They're finding themselves some kills here. Nice reflect there coming in from Amiken as that Tactical Visor gets hit. So great shutdown now coming up from DeToNator, cleaning up the side of Flash Wolves. Going to be able to recap this one. This is great stuff for DeToNator.
DeToNator, they get the point, but what do they use to get it? They use so many of their ultimates. They've only got the self-destruct left, and Yoshiharu, I haven't seen him connect fantastic self-destruct kills, but Flash Wolves as well, they use a lot of ults during their fight. But Zonda, he's got that Dragon Blade. We've seen him use it to great effect. He needs to go in and get a lot of value out of it. Bacon Jack also has to do his job. He can't die during this fight. Flash Wolves, they need to take the point back.
Well, keep your eyes on Bacon Jack here. If he does manage to swindle his way around in the back lines, that's going to be what their side of Flash Wolves are looking for. Now, Amiken, he hasn't really caught Bacon Jack out here on the back lines. Finally now, he does get spotted out, but now Amiken in the great position to put the flank on for the side of DeToNator, but has no support with him now. Oh, Lucio just in time managing to have his back there. Now it's going to be a Diva as well to be able to defend him. It's going to be the Dragon Blade now coming in from Zonda. What can he find with it? It's going to be Doddle on the support, but it's going to be Amiken able to answer with a support of his own. But Zonda has done so much damage here to push out the side of DeToNator, and this surely should be Flash Wolves capping this one back, and indeed, just in the nick of time, DeToNator get themselves all the way up to 96% though.
Back and forth, but DeToNator, they've only got to win one more fight to actually take this stage. They can do that, but look, Flash Wolves, they've used barely any ultimates, only the Dragon Blade during that. They still have the Tactical Visor. That's going to be the big one, because DeToNator have to use Dragon Blade, a Nanoblade combo, in fact, to get big effect, and Tactical Visor can shut that down.
Oh, and Doddle is dropping down low as well as Samurai D as well, and so that's going to be all they had to work with right there. There surely can't be DeToNator capping this one over as Flash Wolves pour onto the point, managed to definitely defend this one down. Going to have to be a retreat coming out now from Yoshiharu, or a death as well. That's even feeding them a little bit too much ultimate charge as well. Flash Wolves looking in a very strong position now to take this one out.
And still, they did not use their DPS ultimates, no Tactical Visor. That late death is going to be crucial. Now, Flash Wolves, they're running out of time. Sorry, DeToNator are running out of time. 80%, that's one good fight left for them to go, but they have built up a lot of their ultimates, but they need to get Pulse Bomb value here. De La V, he's going to have Sound Barrier. That should allow them to survive during the fight, and in fact, maybe even nullify a Pulse Bomb coming out from Bacon Jack. That's going to be the big one. Amiken also has to get good value, needs to find K-Momo.
Here comes the boost and the Dragon Blade straight into the Transcendence of Sinclair, but it is going to be Saihate and managing to find that kill onto Realman. DeToNator are doing it. There goes K-Momo. He's taken out of this as well. Didn't get much out of his Tactical Visor in this one, and now Flash Wolves falling down here. Can DeToNator manage to continue the kills and the effectiveness they had in that last fight and push this one out, because Flash Wolves should be able to get this one into overtime. 99%. Here we go. There is no overtime. No one from Flash Wolves is quick enough, and DeToNator picked themselves up their first stage. We're going to number 4.
And that final fight there, DeToNator executed that so well, right? They had Saihate. He found Realman, stuck the Pulse Bomb on him, and then no sound barrier at all. When you've got two teams going at it against each other with all their ultimates up pretty much, sound barriers are a really big thing. It nullifies a lot of ultimates, it keeps your team alive for a very long time. The fact that it wasn't even used, if Realman had actually just used it, he may have saved himself, but it doesn't even matter at this point. They just needed the sound barrier. That's all they needed, and because they didn't have that, it's just such a humongous advantage for DeToNator to go into that fight. They bring it back 1-2.
Yeah, great pick off there. Saihate really putting the team on his shoulders there with a nicely placed Pulse Bomb. Sinclair obviously putting in their great Transcendence, but I mean, just the sheer power of DeToNator pushing over them was just too much to hold. Now Zonda going to go back on the soldier here, see if he can set up in a good position. Now Bacon Jack is looking to get control of this left side for the side of Flashwolves, getting straight into the thick of things here, looking to do a decent amount of chip damage. Going to be forced back actually, so DeToNator probably coming out with a better position in this first fight here, but it's going to be all on who finds the first kill, and it will be Bacon Jack.
DeToNator still, this time, they're not able to take the early fight. Their composition's also a little bit different. Yoshiharu, instead of the soldier, he's on that diva, but hey, look at how that worked out for him. The second he's not turning around, blocking all these bullets, then Bacon Jack is going to be there picking up the kills early on. And as soon as they've got a numbers advantage, Flashwolves are happy. They're very happy to pounce on an advantage like that to go and take the point. Now they're entrenched, they're ready to start defending, but still, they're not terribly close to a lot of ultimates, right? They're still a little, in fact, definitely ahead against DeToNator, but here's a fight where DeToNator can take it before ultimates actually come into it. But they need to take out K-Momo and Zonda before they can actually get their ults during the fight.
Well, they have a little bit to work with now as well. If Zonda does opt to get that high ground position, as you can see, they do go up there just to check it out, see if there's a Sly Soldier 76 sitting up there. But chip damage now going in both ways here, just seeing who can knock down any of these players. It's going to be Jongi actually taking out Dodoloff there on the side of DeToNator, and now Flash was slightly coming out ahead of this fight here. Anakin not too sure who he should be going for. They do get the cap though, but I don't think Flashwolves are too bothered now. There is a sound barrier actually committed into this one as well. I think this is an absolutely huge snake now coming up from the side of DeToNator. Flashwolves easily recap this one and are not too bothered about giving that cap up just before.
That's going to be punished so hard by Flashwolves. I mean, sure, okay, they lost about 10% on the point, big deal, but now they're sitting ready to go. They won that fight without using any ultimates. Sound barrier used, you're right, that's a mistake, and Flashwolves are just going to sit here and start just distributing their ults in the next few team fights. 60%, that's 2, maybe 3 of the very best team fights left for DeToNator, and they're taking a lot of time to set up, so really we're looking at 2. And so Flashwolves, they can use like 3 ultimates per fight here.
Oh, Nano Boost now coming in, but again, straight into a Transcendence from Sinclair. Now watch K-Momo. Oh, he gets taken out, doesn't use the Dragon Blade here, so this has to be the fight that DeToNator win coming into this one. Double with the Dragon Blade, and now Anakin being pressured ever so slightly here. Sinclair should be dropping as well. Indeed, he gets taken out there. So now this is going to be all for DeToNator to pick this one up. Can Bacon Jack stagger this one long enough? He does have help from Zonda there as well. He's got that Biotic Field down on top of him, and Jongi as well right here to help him out. So this could be Flashwolves biting back with force.
And that fight took so long to set up. It started going for a very long time, and Jongi, I mean, he's put to sleep, it doesn't really matter. But DeToNator, they're just coming back in. They know they don't have time to set up for another fight. They've got to go all in.
This is great play coming out from Flashwolves here. You know, dropped a couple of players, but just only having 3 players left on the point, able to hold this one down. Overtime ticking down, and that's going to be it. Flashwolves pick themselves up map number 1. Oh my goodness, it looked like DeToNator came in with a lot of strength there on stage number 3, looking a lot more composed, you know, a lot better macro play all round, I feel. But then what just happened in number 4 there? They just completely cooked it.
I mean, they bit back on the 3rd map. There's no doubt about that. They obviously took it, but Control Center, things seemed to fall apart. I mean, we saw them getting out-fragged. They made not the most optimal ultimate decisions, I've got to say, to put it lightly, throwing out a sound barrier in a fight that's almost definitely lost. You snuck the point. That's already a great thing. And the problem is, I think, with their mentality going into that fight was, we have to be buying ultimates out of Flashwolves. If they're not using ultimates, we're never going to catch up. So perhaps it was a bit of a desperation sound barrier just to try and buy out ults, but at that point it was just too late.
I think on top of that, it was a little bit of a miscommunication coming up from the side of DeToNator. You know, they got the cap on the point, but Flashwolves, I think, only pulled themselves off the point just so they could reposition themselves a little bit better. You know, Zonda was playing, I think, very well in regards to DeToNator. They were like, we'll put a lot of pressure going up on the high ground, clear out Zonda up there, but then he just retreats and goes to the outer platform outside there with the health pack to work with as well. And he just completely just sort of nullifies any kind of play that DeToNator can throw at him. How did you feel there, Avril?
I think this is too strong of a showing from DeToNator against Flashwolves. You know, I said, like, Flashwolves want a chance to beat Blank tonight. This has to be a totally one-sided game for Flashwolves. And already if DeToNator can get one stage of control, if they can get the recaps in there, if Blank were in this position, these would be 3 back-to-back 100 zeros. The fact that Flashwolves are not getting 3 back-to-back 100 zeros, I kind of got to be concerned about their ability to go up against Blank later on.
I think you actually put out a very good point there, because, I mean, you know, DeToNator showing some signs of like obvious strength there, you know, like they made some good adaptations coming into that one, and if Flashwolves can't really, I guess, just punish them in those raw fights where Flash Wolves should be able to take these wins without even having to use ultimates there. And I mean, we saw K-Momo actually get shut down a couple of times there, trying to use the tac visor. DeToNator make him pay for that one, gets absolutely nothing out of it. Same with a couple of Dragon Blades there as well. So I mean, I think you've raised a really good point there. This is now coming into map number 2 where I guess Flash Wolves really need to stick it to DeToNator. But if DeToNator do manage to get themselves, any kind of first cap coming into this one, manage to get second cap depending on what we go to, going to be very interesting to see.
The thing is for Flash Wolves is they put K-Momo on a DPS as a bit of a band-aid fix. It's like, just throw somebody on there, but really he's not a DPS player. You've got your 2 actual DPS players. I have a feeling that Flash Wolves is a team that was built during the triple tank meta, during a meta where, hey, we can actually field 3 tanks, but also we can play 2-2-2 quite confidently because we have 2 DPS players. They completely disregarded considering even like maybe do we need a 3rd DPS player. Now that we're in a bit of a triple DPS meta, they are getting these kind of band-aid fixes, which, it's you've sort of covered the problem kinda, but ultimately the core issue has not been solved whatsoever. And once you go on to, I think Flash Wolves are going to do better on the other game modes where you may still have an argument to run the 2-2-2 instead, and you have another argument to run 2 actual supports instead of, or at least two tanks and maybe 2 supports instead of, just chucking the 3 DPS in there just cause.
I mean, I feel the side of DeToNator, they've been making those, I guess, those improvements to their triple DPS lineup, and I think maybe not so much this weekend here, but in a couple of weeks from now, I feel like if they can refine that, I feel like maybe the raw skill on some of these players, like say Harte and stuff, might be a little bit higher in regards to Flash Wolves, putting one of their players onto.
I think DeToNator actually controls, looking like their best game mode currently. Control, when we look at last night's results as well, when we look at results in the past, I think Control is typically where they've looked the most comfortable. It also kind of feeds into like, we've said like, do DeToNator just look good earlier on? I think they do look good earlier on, but that's also because Control's the first game mode we see.
Yeah, that's fair. And, talking about the next game mode that we're going to come into, Hybrid, when we're talking about compositions as well. Flash Wolves, how we've been saying, they've been running triple DPS. Maybe some of these swap-ups aren't looking good. They're a team that has looked good during the triple tank meta. On Hybrid, and as it's DeToNator's pick, I'm actually predicting King's Row to come out. You can actually run quite a lot of tanks on defense.
Wow,
on
why
King's
would you
Row.
predict King's Row?
I don't think we ever see King's Row get picked.
No, I mean, there's no reason for that.
It's
I mean,
DeToNator's pick, right? So,
Zombra.
I don't see DeToNator coming out with a crazy pick. That being said, DeToNator have been a team that does pick Numbani. It's not out of the question. Flash Wolves have also looked kind of weak on Numbani. That being said, it is against. They look weak against, say, AHQ and Blank, but it's in general they've still been a good team. I think for DeToNator there is an argument that maybe they would pick Numbani in there, but King's Row is probably still the #1 pick.
Yeah, if they do go for King's Row, what that's going to allow Flash Wolves to do is just utilize the fact that, if they were built during a triple tank meta and if they're good at playing that composition, they've got those options, right? They can play.
But they're not taking those options. That's the issue. That's the issue is they're band-aid fixing themselves to try and play triple DPS meta when I don't think their team is built that way.
That's actually, I think, such a really good point there. Some of these other teams that have been, I guess, Blank might have set that sort of precedent for, that triple DPS, coming into
this tournament
In
anyway.
this tournament, sorry, yes. Coming into this tournament, really showing, I guess, some of these other Asian teams how strong that triple DPS can be, and obviously forcing a lot of these teams, AHQ, being one of them there, DeToNator, really trying to sort of bring out, their teams into triple DPS. So it's something that I guess some teams are a lot better at being able to adjust to there. DeToNator have indeed picked King's Row, so Smite, he's on fire tonight. He's 2-2.
Getting a lot of things right here.
Yeah.
A lot of it is pretty easy to predict.
I was gonna say it's just a tough predictions, man.
Yeah, wow. King's Row, Lijiang Tower. What are we going to see next, Hanamura?
I know. Why?
If only I'd bet eating my shoe on this,
Look, let's not talk about that, all right? Look, I don't even know what you're referencing, but tonight, King's Row, that's the thing we're going to be talking about instead. And as I was saying, Flash Wolves, they've got options, right? I mean, if they do still stick to that triple DPS lineup, it's still been effective on King's Row. You've got so many different levels of elevation that you can play around with, specifically places where you can just stick Zonda, maybe give him a bodyguard, definitely give him a bodyguard actually.
Yeah.
And then just say, look, do your thing up there. We'll we'll try and survive on the ground, just shoot the guys before they kill us.
Trying.
And
I mean, Bacon Jack is.
The other,
Don't worry, mate. I've
the
got
other thing
this.
is, I don't think we've seen enough of Bacon Jack Soldier come out of play, and that's come out sometimes. And now that they've also got K-Momo playing Soldier, there's even less of an argument to put Bacon Jack on Soldier. So Bacon Jack's now either playing a Tracer or a Diva. So that's kind of weird as well. It's really, you want your hit scan player, in this case Bacon Jack, to be the Soldier and Tracer player. However, Zonda just happens to be the best Soldier of all of them, of the entire team. So if you've got your projectile DPS player also playing the best hit scan, and it's kind of weird because in terms of practice, not that I don't think Zonda is good enough for this, but for any player out there to be a master of both projectile DPS and hit scan DPS, I think it's a lot to ask for, and realistically, I don't think Zonda has mastered particularly either. He's fantastic on both, but when you look at Dizzy, who is 100% just a hit scan player, he's totally dropped the Pharah. We haven't seen Pharah since week 1. Dizzy's now so good on the hit scan. The guy was insane yesterday against Blank, and I don't think Zonda, as good as he is currently at that level on hit scan. And the other thing is, no one else on that team is on that level either. So they're kind of stuck in that sort of area.
Well, I mean, something to sort of back up your
the
point
picks
there
are really holding them
is
back.
when, you know, Blank had that interview, you know, when they came up against Flash Wolves, they didn't say, oh, we're really scared of Zonda. You know, when they came out of that map against AHQ the first time, they were like, Dizzy's absolutely insane. Like,
That's the other thing. That's right, because Dizzy had even a fantastic performance the first time they played AHQ.
Yeah, and that was when I
first
guess
time AHQ played Blank.
the rest of the team of AHQ were just maybe a little bit, you know, a little bit behind. Where Dizzy was really trying to, I guess, set the tone there. He was very, I'd say, I mean, it's hard to carry when it comes to Overwatch there, but he was definitely carrying in that certain matchup there.
But here's the thing,
I think he's pulling his own weight rather than carrying his own team. It's more like he's got a lot of weight on himself, and he's fully carrying that own weight of his own responsibility in the team.
So here's the thing though, right?
Well met.
Zonda and the rest of Flash Wolves, they're not playing AHQ, they're not playing Blank, they're playing DeToNator. So while Zonda, maybe he doesn't stack up to the likes of Dizzy or even Eat You Up, but against DeToNator, I think definitely he's still going to be a big problem for them. He's going to be up on that high ground on defense, he's going to be demanding respect, and Yoshiharu, I still expect Yoshiharu to go up and contest him, right? He's still going to be there, but it's going to be the timing with the rest of his team.
As a Diva or as a Soldier?
Well, I hope as a Diva. If he goes
Big
up as
rocket jump.
if he goes up as a Soldier, he's gonna need 5 of his mates there with him, being his whole team trying to contest that in a similar way that we've seen AHQ do that. But DeToNator, they're gonna run Sombra.
I think I really like what you've just brought up there. I think that DeToNator should not run Sombra. I think that they need to run, you know, the Reinhardt, do exactly what AHQ did yesterday, go up through and get control of that high ground and push Zonda out. Because I think if they just try to send one player, even 2 players up to deal with Zonda, I think that that's not going to work out for them there. And I think Zonda's the kind of player they can leave up in the high ground by himself. They don't actually need to give him a designated protector essentially up there, because he can just deal with any sort of situation they throw at him. I don't think he's the kind of player to get sort of caught out, but we are going to be getting into King's Row, and it is going to be Flash Wolves on the defense first.
And Anakin on the Sombra for attack, right? So it doesn't really matter what strategy DeToNator go for, they have to deal with Zonda. They have to go up and get him. And you know, you can go for this big EMP play on the ground, breaking shields, hacking everyone so they don't have any mobility at all, and just winning a team fight or pure momentum that way. Zonda is still going to be up there shooting your dudes from the high ground. You need to answer him. Send Yoshiharu up there. Send Samurai D as well. Take him out and then jump down. Do whatever you need to do to get him down.
Good pickup here from Anakin. Has actually caught Bacon Jack on the Tracer now. Will he win that 1v1 duel? Not today. Obviously, Bacon Jack being an extremely skilled player here, but now
he has
the
EMP.
EMP is up, and this is all going to be on how Anakin is going to place this EMP. If he gets a big one, this is going to be when DeToNator can make this push in. I don't think this is going to hit enough players here. This is when Flash Wolves can really answer back into this one. And there it is, Bacon Jack taking Saihate as they push through the gates now. And DeToNator need to come up with some kills extremely fast if they want to keep this fight alive. And now Flash Wolves really coming out on top of this engagement. And that's going to thwart everything DeToNator can throw at them right now. Nothing contesting Zonda up on the high ground. What was that Flash Wolves' great counterplay?
Even with Zonda on the high ground, I still think DeToNator were just losing that fight on the ground, right? They did not take advantage of the EMP well enough. They hadn't forced Flash Wolves back further enough. They were still in a good enough position. So now, DeToNator are going to be playing on the back foot. They have to swap off the Sombra. They don't have any momentum at all. Flash Wolves, It's going to be similar to what we saw in Lijiang Tower. They're going to start winning fights without even using ultimates, and then suddenly fights are going DeToNator's way, and Flashwolf says, well, let's pull out from our bank of 6 ultimates and try and win the fight that way. But Zonda, he's finally being contested.
Look at that, though. They've thrown almost 3 players up here, and who actually gets the kills now? It comes out, it's going to be Flashwolves. Everything was thrown at Zonda just then, and now it was just K-Momo on the ground just cleaning everybody up there. Now he's got a Dragon Blade to work with. I mean, look at everything that Flashwolves have in the bank now as DeToNator have to keep throwing bodies on another dry push at the side of Flashwolves.
And DeToNator still don't have any ultimates. They still haven't reached a single one. Flashwolves during that fight. Bacon Jack, do you want to throw out a pulse bomb? You'll probably have it up by the next fight. Oh yeah, sure, mate. And that's how they won that fight. So now Flashwolves still have so many powerful ultimates to go with. They've got Tactical Visor, they've got Dragon Blade. That's just going to be the ultimate team-winning fights here against a team that doesn't have a single ultimate.
Well, DeToNator opting for a new route coming through here. Now they're in the defender's position, but still nobody has pushed Zonda off that high ground just yet. It is going to be Bacon Jack being the thorn in Saihate's side here. Doesn't even manage to get that tactical visor up before Zonda hits his own and comes up the back line there, cleaning up the side of DeToNator, and there is nobody left. Complete team wipe, and all they use in that one is a tactical visor. 1 minute left. What can you do, DeToNator?
DeToNator 1 minute left, and this is the first team fight that they're looking at actually having ultimates available for. Tactical Visor, yeah, okay, that's a big one. And there's no Zonda to actually contest you. K-Momo, though, has Dragon Blade. If he gets up in Saihate's face and better actually kills him, then that's the biggest thing that DeToNator have going for them to win this fight here. Getting a pick off right off the bat is a good start.
And Dodoloff taken down early into this one. I mean, they really needed the Discord orb up there as well. Transcendence was nearly going for him as well. Now K-Momo just hitting the Dragon Blade there. Anything else being committed from the side of Flashwolves? What do they need? I mean, Sinclair came through with an ultimate of his own there, but this is where DeToNator are now managing to find themselves some kills. Will Realman even use that sound barrier?
He's still running back.
Yet. He needs to scoot his way back down the streets here, but this should be DeToNator actually picking themselves up the cap.
So DeToNator getting a kill right at the start was great for them, because when you're up against a team that has so many ultimates, killing anyone denies an ult from that team fight. So, oh my god, Flashwolves, they're still going to contest.
They managed to get themselves back in time, and there's Dodoloff's Transcendence now just in the nick of time for the side of DeToNator. Can they turn this one around? It looks like they can, but Bacon Jack still going to work up here, manages to find Dodoloff, still has that pulse bomb as well. See you later, Yoshiharu. Discord orb out as well. What can he do here? Doesn't even need to use the pulse bomb. Oh my goodness, can Flashwolves hold this one down? It's looking like they can, but the players from DeToNator do have that respawners advantage. Should be able to get back there. No, they can't. What is going on here? No, it's going to be Samurai D back onto the point. Now Pulse Bomb comes through, doing good work with this one. Sound Barrier as well being committed from De La V. But here we go, Zonda still not being contested up here. Can he get himself up another Tactical Visor? No Biotic Field to keep him alive though.
They capped it. They finally capped
Somehow, Bacon Jack needed to get on the point there.
So Flashwolves, they were backing off, playing almost like the point, didn't have an inch to go to finally get capped. Now they're still picking up kills here, so any momentum DeToNator are going to have is non-existent, right? So Flashwolves, they're going to push right up forward, right to this archway and just control that point there. They've got not a huge amount of ultimates to work with. They used a lot in that last final contest, but the ones that they do have are those DPS ults. Tactical Visor, Dragon Blade, those are the ones that are going to get them clean kills here. Anakin, he needs to get value out of his own Dragon Blade, and Flashwolves, they're all stacking up in this high ground here.
Well, Zonda, the better old man there, takes Saihate out early into this fight, and now it's going to be Jongi jumping straight into this one. Tactical Visor being used. Good block out here coming in from Yoshiharu. Zonda not getting a lot of mileage out of this one, and now he's going to be contested by Anakin. Will he use the Dragon Blade here? Though I hope not. It's just Zonda being able to easily win that duel there with that Biotic Field to keep him alive through this one. Now watch Bacon Jack's position there as well. If the fight comes through the gate, he's going to easily be able to set up for that Pulse Bomb.
The big thing as well during that fight as well was that DeToNator didn't get anything on the payload here, and now they were just walking into another losing fight.
And now with Anakin getting taken out very early into this one, DeToNator shouldn't be able to find anything into this. Flashwolves should be able to just push them out the front door as they have to gonna have to reset this fight for another one. Saihate does find a little bit of a consolation kill there onto Bacon Jack though.
Consolation kill, I mean, Bacon Jack, he's Tracer, he's just going to blink back, one of the easiest champions to get back into the point even with a long respawn. But here we go, ultimates are being used.
Tactical Visor coming through now as well from Saihate. What can he find with it? But it's still Flashwolves coming up with the kills here. And now instantly pressured from Jongi, jumping straight onto his head. Back to the spawn he goes now. Dodoloff going to be taken out of this one as well. There's nothing he can do here as Zonda jumps all over him. And Jongi doing a good job here on this Winston, really controlling the tempo with these fights.
DeToNator, they committed everything they had into that fight, and there's only 30 seconds to, 20 seconds to go even, and this payload has not moved at all. Flash Wolves have taken every single fight right on top of it, denying any movement every single time. Flash Wolves, they just waited for DeToNator to use their own ultimates, and then Flash Wolves say, all right, cool, we'll start using ours, we'll start winning the fight. And still, they've got ults left in the bank, they've got a pulse bomb, they've importantly got Jongi's Primal Rage.
Oh, Jongi does get taken down there, so that's going to be unfortunate for the side of Flash Wolves. A little bit of a misplay coming out from him there, and now Flash Wolves going to have to rethink their defensive strategy here. Bacon Jack looking to get around on the backside. We'll be looking to blink in there and drop the pulse bomb. Now Kart is moving with haste this time up the streets phase. Amakin has gotten extremely aggressive, managed to gain control of that high ground for the side of DeToNator. There comes a pulse bomb! Big double kill there for Bacon Jack, and that is going to be now extremely hard for DeToNator to work with. That sound barrier coming through, but a little bit too late here. Tactical visor from Zonda just pushing these DeToNator players back down the streets, back home, and that's going to be DeToNator getting held here on streets phase.
Not the strongest performance from DeToNator, I've got to say. I mean, I'm actually really quite surprised they managed to take the point there, even on the first stage of King's Row. It was in overtime. Flash Wolves had come back for a stellar defense, and even though DeToNator took the point, they'd still been losing the fight and were just suddenly held at the archway, and it took them, what, 4 fights to finally get the payload moving half an inch?
I mean, I'm going to be, I guess, a little bit brutal here. Take a little page out of the Avril book. It seems it just seemed like Flash Wolves were kind of playing with a little dead animal there. Just poking it with a stick, because when Flash Wolves were like, oh, we'll just give them the cap just so the game goes on a little bit longer and we can just kill them a little bit more. Because I think Bacon Jack really could have contested that point. I think he just tunnel visioned in on getting a kill just a little bit too early there when DeToNator did manage to get themselves the cap on the first point. And I mean, if he just contested that, that would have been an easy first hold, I think, for Flash Wolves.
I mean, that is something that happens though. Tunnel vision can absolutely happen. You've got the point just barely about to cap, you're trying to defend it, but suddenly you say one of your teammates dies and you don't realize, oh no, we've got no one on the point. So I should be blinking onto it, but you don't have time to realize that. There's hectic communication, and I guarantee it, desperation moment. I mean, not really desperation, because it's still the first point. Flash was clearly in control for most of that map, but things like that happen. And while DeToNator weren't able to punish it, other teams might be. And we'll talk about this after the match, but Flash Wolves have to absolutely demolish DeToNator to stand a chance against Blank later on.
Well, I'm expecting a very quick walkover now coming through from Flash Wolves on their offense here. I mean, their defense really looked like they were enjoying themselves, I guess, taking the fight straight to DeToNator's front doorstep there. But it'll be, I guess, interesting to see what DeToNator can do on their defense now. Going to be Amakin on the Genji. Now Yoshiharu's going to need to come up big on this soldier.
Well, I kind of expect Flash Wolves. Oh, okay, so they are going to stick with this team composition here with the Farah as well. Just basically bombard until you hit a few direct rocket hits, and then you can just send in the rest of your divers to clean up. Oh. And Farah just sets up perfectly for that sort of thing. It also will contest this high ground as well, but not early enough, it seems, as Yoshiharu picks up a kill, picks up 2.
Well, the triple DPS not working out too well there for the side of Flash Wolves here. And as Avril mentioned earlier, their team maybe not set up for this kind of composition. And that is obviously going to be the first fight now thwarted by DeToNator. If they can manage to pick up a couple of these kills before the rest of Flash Wolves manage to get themselves back in there, but it's going to be Bacon Jack in a great little position around the hotel, can easily get himself into a flanking position here.
They've also,
and still no pressure being put up on Zonda just yet.
They've also swapped as well. It's Zonda now onto Soldier rather than Fire. That wasn't working. They can just simply send him up to that defensive position that Yoshiharu is. But we've seen soldiers do it before. They say, hey, that's a fantastic spot. I'd like to take it for myself. And they go up, but they're just going to dive straight onto the enemy team. Zonda's positioning is going to be pretty much crucial here.
Now Dodloff being taken out into this fight. Now Flash Wolves are getting things done here, managing to find the early kill onto one of the supports there for the side of DeToNator. Doesn't matter that Yoshiharu's up in the top on the high ground there when the rest of his team are taken out. This is going to be Flash Wolves picking themselves up the cap very quickly. Now moving into the streets phase, should be able to roll with a little bit of momentum off this one.
They did have one swap. So they lost a little bit of momentum there, but they're still definitely ahead here. They've got a pulse bomb to work with, and we've seen so often Bacon Jack just gets so much value from it. They've already got one pick at the start, so this payload, it's guaranteed damage, guaranteed distance anyway. You can't really contest it there, but once they get up to this archway, Flash Wolves are just going to be in position. Look at DeToNator, they're just running away. They can't get into position here. So they're going to struggle to get the high ground. Flash Wolves are going to take advantage of this, push this payload up. And remember, it does not have to go very far. You just have to get it around that second corner, and suddenly Flash Wolves are going to be able to win. They've got a Dragon Blade to do that with.
Oh, here we go. The Dragon Blade coming through, and DeToNator, instead of running away, now take the fight straight to Flash Wolves up at the front gate there. They find themselves 3. No more than that, as Flash Wolves, very smart, managed to retreat almost instantly out of that as the ultimates came through from the side of the DeToNator.
Picking off Zonda at the end there, just going to buy them a little bit of extra time, but right now, DeToNator need every second they can get. 4 minutes are still to go on this point right now, and that's not a long time. That's a huge amount of time actually for Flash Wolves to push all the way around to the second corner. And remember, they might have lost that fight, but they didn't commit ultimates to it at all. They've still got so many to go with. They could probably win this fight right out here because remember, DeToNator used their Nanoblade combo. That's 2 ults down. Flash Wolves know they're in the lead.
Great positioning now coming up from Flash Wolves, getting themselves in a full team flanking position there. It's going to be Samurai D taken out very early into this one. Bacon Jack is going to commit the pulse bomb into the house. Doesn't find anything with it, but it is going to be able to buy them a lot of time. Transcendence now coming through for the side of Flash Wolves just to push them over the edge of this fight. Not much further left on the cart for them to push through. With 3 minutes 20 left here, looking very good for Flash Wolves. Can DeToNator even get themselves back and contest? Doesn't look like it, as Zonda pushes so aggressively up here right into the face of Samurai D. Takes that 1v1 duel with him, forcing Samurai D to actually primal rage to try and get himself back onto the cart. Manages to contest for a split second there. It's a Genji trying to dash in, but no hope here, and Flash Wolves pick themselves up map number 2.
That was looking a little bit better for Flash Wolves. They're still, like I said earlier, a few mistakes here and there that better teams might actually be punishing, but because they're up against DeToNator, they make it look like no sweat. They're able to come in and just very easily defend King's Row. I mean, we almost saw a full hold, and due to a slight positioning error, maybe an overcommitment on the end in the final fight, they end up just giving the point away. And like I said before, that's a move that teams like Blank, teams like AHQ might actually punish if they're up against them. But DeToNator, they ended up losing that fight and just getting pushed really far back, basically up to their spawn, and then held at the archway for, like I said, 4 or 5 fights.
I mean, that play from Zonda at the end there, you know, they got the play of the game there. I feel like that was quite a big sort of standout play in itself. Actually, you know, we sort of talk about the play of the game and then the play of the game. I mean, that was technically, I would say, probably both of them there. You know, really allowed Flash Wolves to have such a huge advantage for the rest of their defense coming off just a plain tactical visor. I mean, DeToNator had no answer for that one.
One of the plays for me was actually Bacon Jack on the defense on Street's phase with the double pulse bomb. That was a really important play because it killed both the DPSs on DeToNator at the same time. And DeToNator then already being in overtime, they lost all their damage in one go. The opportunity to finish that cap just went from possible to like 0 off 1 pulse bomb. So
kind of like Zonda out the window.
Yeah, kind of, but like it's, for me though, that kind of, the timing on that play is important because again, this is an overtime play, and when you make a game changer in overtime like that, that's a game winning play because immediately DeToNator done. They got nothing to use after. All their damage is gone. Their entire push just stops. And so that one play absolutely secured the defense for Flash Wolves. Great setup by Flash Wolves on their second attack as well. So you actually see like really reserved, wait for DeToNator to initiate. First, DeToNator need to play slightly more. It's a difficult situation. I want to say slightly more patient. At the same time, DeToNator can't just give away free cart push, so they want to engage. So the decision here is, do we engage with ults or do we not engage with ults? In most situations of defense, you don't want to initiate ults first. You want to initiate ults second because you want to see what the attackers are going to use first. You want to counter with the reaction of your own, and then expect to win by just using a little bit more. Then you win with a positive ult trade. You do what DeToNator did. You win with your ults. And Flash was like, cool, take it. I'll take
three
whatever,
of us.
I'll take whatever ults you want. I'll come back, and guess what? We're just going to go for a death push. We're saved up. We're ready to go. I don't know what the right play for DeToNator was there. I know they had to go for a play. Whether they should have committed ults or not, it's questionable because if they didn't commit ults and they lost right there, they would have just lost anyway. So it was almost a lose-lose situation with DeToNator. Really difficult situation. They made the play that they made. Flash Wolves responded properly and they got the win.
It's also just the difference between the two teams right now. It's very clear. DeToNator just don't seem to be identifying what Flash Wolves are going to do to win the next fight, their win condition. Flash Wolves, however, are always noticing, hey, look, DeToNator probably have this, and this ultimate up, ready to go. What do we have to counter it? Cool, sound barrier, that's probably enough. Let's just use that. They can recognize these situations and say, we're going to use this in this team fight. This is how we stop DeToNator from winning the team fight. DeToNator, on the other hand, I mean, even in the play of the game, right? We saw Zonda just drop down from behind. This is something that you need to be predicting. You need to be saying like, okay, we haven't seen Tactical Visor in a while. This is something that Flash Wolves are going to use to win the fight. Where's Zonda? He's upstairs. He could drop behind us. We probably need to be dealing with that, or at the very least, keeping an eye on him, have someone up contesting him. That's what happens when you don't send up someone to contest Zonda.
They absolutely did. His name was Anakin. He lost a duel. Zonda sniped him out of the window, then dropped down, said, this is now 6v5 and I'm going to attack Visor. So DeToNator did do what they needed to do there. They absolutely contested. They just failed the contest. They didn't really play enough members up there. That's definitely one thing. They didn't commit enough members to actually contest Zonda. Even if you want to put Anakin there, be confident that you can actually outduel Zonda, or at least force attack Visor just right then and there, and then, at least you're one player eating a whole attack Visor instead of your whole team. And I actually have, just after thinking about it for a little bit longer, DeToNator in their final defense, probably the best option for them would have been to play the minimal amount of ults possible. So in this case, it would have been 1 damage ult only. Don't combo it at all. See what Flash Wolves' response is, because realistically, with 1 damage ult, you're expected to win versus no ults anyway. Even if Flash Wolves want to pull back and save completely, you've only spent 1 ult and you've got a couple others left waiting to go that you can still come back with. So it's about playing as minimalist as possible on defense. I think that's what DeToNator really needed, but they went for a full contest and it ended up coming back to bite them.
So something coming off the control map, they put a lot of pressure, I suppose, on Zonda in some of those engagements there. And I think that was what was really sort of letting them down when they really should have been aiming for supports. I mean, we saw a little bit more strength come out of the side of DeToNator when they did start taking supports out early into these fights. But coming into this one, they did the same thing, put that pressure onto Zonda, and this is where they really, I think, needed to find that kill onto him really early, and they needed to really commit more than just one player, because a lot of the time when DeToNator were attacking, I feel, they would see Zonda, they would know where he is, but they would throw Anakin up there by himself, and then they'd throw Yoshi up there by himself. And, I mean, a player like Zonda is like, you want to 1v1 duel me, mate? Doesn't matter what hero you are. He's got something, in his encyclopedia there to really sort of deal with these situations, Yoshi goes up there, tries to block him, he's like, man, I don't mind. Anakin goes up there and he's like, do you want to Dragon Blade me? Because that's the only way you can kill me up here. So I think there needs to be a little bit more confidence or a little bit more of a commitment coming out from the side of DeToNator in that regard. Send 2 players up there at once. Yes, you're going to be playing at the player advantage down on the ground, but at least you deal with him.
Let's check that Sombra again. I'm already not a fan of these kind of setup plays anyway. I'm a fan of the setup plays where you're doing a long-term setup where okay, we need to win X amount of fights. Maybe we can afford to drop this fight, but at this amount of time and this amount of distance, this is the fight where we need to have X amount of backed up ults and advantage to actually be able to get a push out and win. Not where, okay, let's wait for an EMP and go, because what happened, they went for an EMP, they went. Where was Flash Wolves? They were so prepared for that. Big difference. What did Fireball do? They grouped up and they all backed off in the same corner. What did Flash Wolves do? They split their members so far apart. You had Zonda up who knows where. You got multiple members around the clock tower. Only 2 guys down the bottom. When Anakin finally went in, he's like, there's a Lucio and a Winston here. I might as well use it. And even then, Jongi dropped his barrier down anyway, so you didn't even prevent the shield out from the Winston. All in all, the EMP was a pretty big disaster, and the other 4 members of Flash Wolves were basically laughing all the way through that team fight, thinking like, cool, EMP hit 2 members, and all of us can just still do what we want. Yeah,
and even the members that they hit, I mean, like you said, Winston, he already got his barrier down, doesn't matter.
Yeah, it's just like, what?
And also the other one, Lucio, I mean, oh no, I can't swap my song. I guess I'll just continue healing for the rest of it. He can still wall ride, he can still left click with his 25% damage buff since that patch. So really, you're not hitting key targets. That should be the thing that secures you the advantage. I mean, this is the whole point of the fight, right? You're getting advantage because enemies can't use their crucial abilities. Those 2 have used their crucial abilities already. They can still do what they're going to do anyway during the fight.
To speak on the side of DeToNator, they kind of, I guess, maybe hit panic mode there a little bit. Maybe thought because Flash Wolves are so split up that maybe they can get themselves an early pick, play that man advantage really early on if the rest of Flash Wolves, are too busy hiding away. But I mean, Flash Wolves are just too good of a team, obviously, to let something like that happen. They're not going to leave their 2 guys out in the open, let DeToNator walk all over them, even with a mistimed, I suppose, or misplaced EMP. Flash Wolves obviously jump straight in there And I mean, DeToNator obviously were not able to, I guess, adapt quick enough throughout the rest of the match there. They're always going to be playing from the back foot at that point, and I think that's one of those big things that DeToNator have that issue with, trying to run, I'm going to call it the cheese setup with the Sombra there, because I think it is a little bit cheesy now, especially against teams like Flash Wolves that know how to sort of counteract that. I mean, it takes a lot more, I think, to set up that Sombra play against a team that are all split up and are willing and ready to sort of counteract that.
Yeah, I just think right now it's too telegraphed. When you play something like that, it's like, it's so telegraphed exactly what you're trying to do. A smart team like Flash Wolves know what the plan is. They know what you're meant to do against it. Team like Fireball might go into panic mode. It's like, let's huddle up. But Flash Wolves aren't going to do that.
Team talk. Team talk.
Flash Wolves aren't going to do that. So, this is why a lot of the cheese pickouts, they work when it's a total surprise. Like, whoa, the Bastion showed up out of nowhere, right? But as soon as you actually know it's there, you can have a counterplay ready to go.
Yeah, that's the biggest difference between real cheese, your fine Gorgon Bear cheese, and then this kind of cheese
I haven't
where
had
it's
that
like,
before. Is that good?
I don't know, I've heard it in a video game. I know it's a type of cheese.
What's this
though.
one? Edam's Tasty or something?
Edam's surely got to be...
Gorgon Bear. I heard some cheese vendor in some RPG I was playing yelling it out like, fresh Gorgon Bear. I knew it was cheese. And that's, I was trying to think of a
You got that
fancy
from
name
a
for
video
cheese.
game, so it's not even a real thing. It's
Maybe it is a real thing.
It's a real thing. Like
Cheese connoisseur Smite.
I'll Google it during the break and I'll tell everyone that it is a real thing.
Right.
I'll find a picture of it too. But in any case, your real fine cheese is like your Bastion strats, your six pulls, like that sort of thing that takes the enemy by surprise. This, like Avril said, it's too telegraphed. A team like Flash Wolves is just going to say, and this is the big thing that I've been saying as well, is that they identify the win condition. It's like, it's the most obvious win condition ever. They're going to come in, EMP, and use that with the advantage to try and win a fight. What if they don't EMP our whole team? We win. And that's what happened.
I think that's, I guess, like, what I guess most teams, when they see that Sombra coming at them, they're like, it's probably just spread out, boys, It's a pretty obvious thing to do there. But I mean, now coming back onto Flash Wolves' map, looking to close the series out. I think they're looking, I guess, slowly better throughout the series here. They are, I feel, a little bit frag happy, if that's, I guess, something that you can sort of say about a team.
Sorry, who are?
Flash Wolves. They're extremely frag happy.
So they should be.
They love to get they love to really, I guess, there's teams that just like to take that fight really nicely and cleanly, but it's like Flash Wolves, they take a fight, and we talked about Zonda being, that over-aggressive player, but it looks like the whole team are like, go, 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 spawn camp them, boys, spawn camp them.
Go, boy,
Like-
Zonda. Zonda, get in there. Yeah, tear him apart. And maybe he goes out of position against better teams, but DeToNator right now just aren't punishing that sort of play from them. And like Avril said, Flash Wolves, they should be frag happy against DeToNator, right? These guys should be getting demolished.
Yeah, it's almost like the opposite measuring stick. You got the blank measuring sticks, like how well do you perform against blank, but unfortunately, currently against both DeToNator and Sun Sister, it's how well do you perform against these teams, because if you're performing somewhat poorly, not even poorly being like, wow, you dropped the map, but poorly being like, wow, they put up a huge fight that we didn't expect, that means you're not going to have a good time against blank, who to be quite frank, they don't have any problems with teams like DeToNator whatsoever. So any team that does have problems against DeToNator, well, you're not going to beat blank.
I think, again, that really comes down to that pure just mechanical skill, Maybe some of these players on the side of Flash Wolves, this is something I sort of talked about in earlier weeks, how they kind of rely a little bit on, the likes of Zonda and Bacon Jack to really get that damage output going. And I mean, you see it on other teams, where even, the Lucios that were maybe just a little bit more mechanically skilled can really feel confident, getting in there, adding that little extra bit of damage. And you sort of talked about it last night, that little bit of that 1% that sort of puts your team over the edge there, that little extra bit of damage is what really makes the difference.
Yeah, so what is really interesting is seeing K-Momo pick out the Genji as well sometimes. Now, if K-Momo can get really proficient on Genji to the stage where you're blank and you can play either Eita or Trill and Genji, and it doesn't matter because they're both absolutely fantastic on it. If Flash Wolves can get to that stage, then Zonda's picks really free up, because like I said, you want Zonda to be on the Soldier. Or the alternative is you get K-Momo super good on the Soldier. But currently, I think I see it a lot more on the Genji rather than the Soldier. We've seen enough of K-Momo Soldier, and you put it next to Zonda Soldier, and it's a pretty big difference. So when you do see Zonda fighting on the Soldier, the consistent damage output he can really get in there is really important for his team, and you absolutely see the impact of it as well.
And you also see like how much attention it demands as well. I mean, Flash was confident enough to just leave Zonda up on the balcony by himself, and you constantly had Genjis and Divas coming up to deal with them, and he still won.
I don't think there was a Diva.
There was a Diva at one point. Yoshiharu flew up, tried to eat his
activizer.
You were like, yes.
Yes.
I was like, yes, Yoshiharu, go.
Yeah, prove me right.
Flash Wolves have picked Volskaya Industries, and now I feel this is going to be extremely hard for DeToNator. I mean, obviously coming up against Flash Wolves is hard enough in itself, but DeToNator seem to be unable to make these sort of like calls on the fly and be confident enough, and I guess their players are not confident enough to really split their members up when it comes to attacking this point. I can see them moving as a single cohesive unit and picking one of the balconies to go up, and Flash Wolves obviously just going to run back to the other side, and obviously, as you mentioned, and something I sort of talked about before, King's Row, Zonda is so very comfortable at being left by himself. He doesn't need a protector.
So, that's the thing about DeToNator as well. Their entire playstyle and their entire macro game isn't calculated. They're not looking for their outs. When they're behind, they're not thinking about, okay, A, we've identified we're behind, which is the first step. B, what do we need to do here to get ahead? Where's the sense of planning? By which fight? By which time? By what card distance? By how much progress on the percent cap on control do we need to make X move before we can get ahead? And the planning involved. You see the difference between, and you look at Flash Wolves, like they say, okay, we got to, on the second check, on the streaks phase of King's Row, cart's only here. We need to push the cart up to X distance for free if they engage us. That's cool. We're not going to sacrifice any ults. We know we can come back immediately, ult them back, and secure a free kill. And the Flash Wolves are so calculated about that. They didn't even full commit. They committed like 2 ultimates, kept the attack visor, which was really important. And then when they were finally nearing the actual final cap itself, then Zonda pulls out the attack visor, and they just have enough tools that it's so calculated in how just exactly what they need to get a specific goal, and then just get a little bit further, and they have enough left in the bank to go with.
Another really important thing as well is that DeToNator seem to struggle with jumping on advantages. They'll pick up 1 kill maybe, get themselves a numbers advantage, and usually they're quite hesitant to go ahead and use that advantage. But on Volskaya Industries, first point specifically, you need to be ready to do that. What is that? Oh my god.
We just got a sneaky Winston just chilling.
Get down from there, Jongy.
Oh, well. So it is indeed going to be DeToNator on the attack first here. And it's going to be that defensive Sombra here. So a lot of health packs to work with for the side of Flash Wolves here.
Yeah, I mean, it's working as a de facto healer as well because they're only running the Lucio as well. But already 1 kill onto Bacon Jack. This should set them up. This is where DeToNator need to jump on that numbers advantage. They don't have a lot of time because Bacon Jack, he can still get back to this point pretty quickly after respawning.
Yeah, great read there from DeToNator coming out. And now they have control of this first balcony here. Going to be able to force Flash Wolves off this one. Can Saihate get the mech here? This is going to be very important. Sinclair now does find that kill onto Dodoloff though, up in the back lines there. And Saihate actually being forced off here. Good sustain to keep this fight going along. Not letting Saihate break into this one, and of course Bacon Jack wins that Tracer duel there. Now Flash Wolves looking to get a little bit of a looking to stabilize off the back of this here. They are getting themselves some cap time, DeToNator, but will it be anything important? It looks like not, as now Flash Wolves can easily just bait these players in and around. Anakin not on the point at all. He's going to be left alone now with no support. Dodoloff though with a couple of balls into Bacon Jack's face there, but now Anakin left alone and hungry. He does have a couple of players to help him out here. But where are the rest of these DeToNator players? They're not getting any cap time, and they're letting Flash Wolves reset up.
Yeah, once Anakin gets up here, it becomes much harder to contest because of that, because of the flashbang. He can just shut down anyone that flies up to him and deal with him. But there's the EMP, is it enough?
And will this be able to chase out the rest of these players? DeToNator actually coming out with a lot of these kills here. Realment falling down. Not enough damage here, but as it is Bacon Jack in a dream right now. Does have a pulse bomb to work with as well. But Saihate actually being the one with the pulse bomb just a little bit earlier than Bacon Jack's one. Finds the kill there though. But look at the cap time now for DeToNator. They're getting all of this time on this. Will Flash Wolves even contest? No, they won't. They won't even bother, and we're going to point number 2.
And this Flash Wolves recognizing, all right, cool, we lost the point. We bought a fair amount of time. Usually, point 1 does go pretty quickly anyway. So DeToNator, they still get a pretty good result against Flash Wolves. I mean, we could have expected Flash Wolves to even full hold there, but now they've pulled back, and importantly, there's not a humongous ult advantage for DeToNator right now because Zonda has his Dragon Blade. He can actually come in here with a team wipe. Anakin, Deadeye, that can possibly shut down a bad Dragon Blade, but I don't expect Zonda to throw out a bad Dragon Blade. He's going to be in a great position.
Oh, pressure instantly onto Anakin there, forcing him back. Bacon Jack finding that pulse bomb kill there onto Dodoloff. The Deadeye going to be committed. Unsure about that one from Anakin though, as he finds absolutely nothing with that. And now DeToNator going to have to rethink this one. They had such a big ultimate advantage there, and wasting the Deadeye there is, I feel, a little bit disappointing.
Yeah, not sure if that was poor timing or just bad luck or some combination of the two, because Anakin throwing out the Deadeye, the second he loses his Zenyatta, the second his team has a numbers disadvantage, that's not the time to throw out Deadeye unless you're planning to swap. And seeing as okay, never mind, there it is. He finally made it back to the spot. He's on to the Sombra. So, DeToNator, you cheeky players, you coming in again. Now, this is going to take a little bit of setup, and this is going to be time that they're not using those 4 ultimates that they already have. They might go in to try and win a fight off it, but Sombra doesn't bring a lot until she gets the EMP.
Well, luckily she gets that EMP extremely quickly into this one. A lot of health packs as well on point number 2 to work with here. Now Anakin getting himself in a nice flanking position, trying to just see where these Flash Wolves players are located, looking to get himself a little bit of a hack there. That might even be what they're looking for just to start off the fight now. But again, Anakin getting just the translocate out now, straight onto Bacon Jack here. And now there comes the Pulse Bomb, doesn't find anything, and not at all as that self-destruct from K-Momo going to be able to take Samurai D into this fight. And DeToNator need to pull back now, I feel. The Transcendence being used when I think that the fight was already over, and indeed Dodoloff being taken out here as well. Bacon Jack won't even need to use the Pulse Bomb here, and now Flash Wolves looking in a very strong spot.
DeToNator seem to be in 2 minds about this. So with the picking the Sombra, they're saying, okay, we've got to set up, try and build up that EMP, and then go on for a big win when we've all got our ultimate. And then they're doing things like throwing out the Transcendence in a fight that they've already lost. EMP is not ready yet. So DeToNator, yeah, again, they're just not looking as cohesive as Flash Wolves are right now, who are saying, let's just win fights using the minimal amount of ultimates as we can. I mean, they're doing just that. They're winning with frags. That self-destruct really was just to clean up the last few kills right now. DeToNator, again, they have to go in, set up for this EMP, and now it's finally close, but they won't have a Transcendence to work with. They won't have a Pulse Bomb. Bacon Jack, he's been consistently sticking those Pulse Bombs on, getting a kill, and securing his team a win.
Well, Yoshiharu is going to need to hit a big Tac Visor here. Zonda does have the Dragon Blade up, so nice little piece of nice ultimate to work to counteract that out if he does time it correctly here. And again, just looking for that chip damage now. Finally, this EMP is going to be up. This should be win. They look to get in on this fight now. There it comes. There comes the Translocator blocked out by the shield. EMP comes through. Doesn't hit enough of these players. They are extremely low there. Bacon Jack, though, does take Samurai D down in the back lines. But DeToNator now with that player advantage. If they can manage to stagger out these ultimates enough, they might be able to get themselves some good cap time here. They get it about halfway. But now the Dragon Blade from Zonda, looking to see what he can find with this. Gets 1, gets 2. Looks for a 3rd onto Dodoloff. Finds it. Looks for a 4th here as well. And he definitely gets this one. Zonda holding down this defense by himself.
Zonda coming in with a big Dragon Blade, saving them there as well. The sound barrier being a big factor in winning that fight. DeToNator, they threw out the EMP, but Flash Wolves have backed off enough. And again, it wasn't the most crucial of targets getting hacked there. So DeToNator, they can be happy with that result, I suppose. They got 1/3 of the points, so eventually they can move in to get a little bit more, but still they're running low on ultimates. They've swapped over onto Genji now, just swapping the composition up quite a lot. They're going to have to wait quite a long time to build up these ultimates, but with only 2 minutes to go, if they're only going for 1/3 of the point with every fight they win, they're not going to have enough time to get a full cap here.
Yeah, this is not looking good for DeToNator now. Flash Wolves should be able to cycle through some of these ultimates here. Bacon Jack getting close to his Pulse Bomb, and I mean, that's all they're going to really need into this. And obviously, oh, there we go. Bacon Jack doesn't even need a Pulse Bomb as he finds Dodoloff there. De La V dropping down as well. Zonda picking himself up a pair. And the rest of Flash Wolves now just pouncing on the remaining DeToNator players, looking to get extremely frisky right up into their faces and catch them as they try to retreat there.
Flash Wolves are just punishing DeToNator every time they're out of position, going in for kills. Bacon Jack is just constantly on their heels, picking up kills. You talked about, oh, you know, Pulse Bomb, that's going to be the one that gets him a kill. He doesn't need Pulse Bomb right now. He can still pick up kills. It's on the back line of DeToNator, specifically Dodoloff, on that immobile Zenyatta, to be aware of where Bacon Jack is. If suddenly he sees someone blinking around him, he needs to be communicating that to his team, making sure they're ready to back him up. They've got Yoshiharu to do that, and they're swapping up again. Saihate's over onto the Pharah. There's not going to be a lot of ultimates used in this 1 minute to go fight.
And yeah, 4 there on the side of Flash Wolves. Zonda almost about to have another blade up as well. Bacon Jack does throw out the Pulse Bomb. Doesn't find anything with it just yet. Now good pressure coming up from Saihate. Straight up onto Sinclair in the back lines there. It is DeToNator getting themselves on the point, but Zonda going to be able to find a couple with this Dragon Blade, looking for another one through this. No pressure at all onto Zonda. As I say that, he does finally get taken down right there, but still the rest of these Flash Wolves players looking alive and healthy on the point, being able to definitely hold off this attack from the side of DeToNator. And it looks like we are just going to be getting back into the game in just a moment there, but Flash Wolves are looking very convincing now on the defense, being able to get a nice staggered kill here onto Yoshiharu as well. Just buying themselves just a little bit more time here. Yoshiharu doesn't know where to go at all. Should be trying to run himself off into the edge, not into the wall there.
They were body blocking. I don't think he could have actually jumped off the edge at that point. That was a pretty good play by Flash Wolves, but looking at it now, that 10 seconds that they just bought off of that is huge because DeToNator only had 50 seconds to go when they were doing that. Flash Wolves still building up their ultimates. They've swapped off the Genji as well. Zonda's now onto Soldier, just a whole lot more consistent during these fights. It's also going to throw a bit of a curveball to DeToNator, who've got to come in with the Dragon Blade, no nano boost to work with. That's their only tool right now. That's got to be their big team wipe. They've got to make the most of it.
Well, a Genji in a dream, it seems, as they try to push their way into probably the last fight of the match. Here it goes straight onto Zonda. Very good work there. That sound barrier, though, coming in for the side of Flash Wolves will be enough to keep a few of these players alive here. Jongi answering back, taking down the support there on the side of DeToNator. Now that Transcendence for the side of Flash Wolves as well, just to push these last few players alive. Self-destruct coming through as well, just to buy them a little bit more time here on this point. And Yoshiharu, they didn't find any kills. Now Flash Wolves just cleaning up the rest of DeToNator here, and Flash Wolves are going to be able to hold this one down before point number 2.
So about 50% on point 2 for DeToNator. I've got to say that's actually probably a better result than we've been expecting. And going into this map, going into the series even, we were saying how Flash Wolves have to demolish DeToNator if they want to look like they can stand a chance against Blank, who still, even after they lost last night, are top of the table. And Flash Wolves coming up against them, they've got to have a good showing against DeToNator. DeToNator not only capping the first point, but also getting 50% of the point on Volskaya Industries that's not getting demolished. Now, a lot of teams will eventually get that cap, but still, we have actually seen point 2 defended before, so I've got to say, maybe Flash Wolves could have played that defense a little bit better, but at the same time, DeToNator still pulling out quite a lot of stops, especially on their first point attack. I did actually like that.
I mean, there's, I guess, a little bit of sloppy play coming out from DeToNator as well. Like, I think they had every chance to actually get that cap onto point number 2. Not saying that Flash Wolves played anything really super badly into that one. You know, off the top of my head, I can't really think of any sort of huge misplays coming out from them. Just DeToNator finding a little bit of openings in regards to their offense there. But I mean, I guess if they did a little bit more with that EMP play there, the trades coming out from Flash Wolves were really good in that situation. I just think they could have got maybe a little bit more mileage out of that one time they had almost 6 ultimates sort of stacked up for their side. That's when they really needed to make that push in there. They got themselves a little bit of percentage there, but I mean, they really might have been able to cap that one over with just a little bit more, I guess, usage out of the support ultimates.
Well, see how DeToNator do on the defense here, whether they do run a Sombra, as we saw Flash Wolves run the first point. But DeToNator, I mean, we've definitely seen them like to run the Sombra, but defense this time, it's not going to be a go. They're going to run just pretty standard dive composition. This means they have to get aggressive onto Flash Wolves. As soon as they see Flash Wolves trying to get into position, it needs to be DeToNator on the offensive, needs to punish them for their positioning. However, Flash Wolves running a very similar composition. In fact, pretty much mirrored, the only difference between being the Ana and the Zenyatta. So yeah, as soon as Flash Wolves look like they're getting into position, DeToNator need to find the weak points of engagement and jump on them as soon as possible. Find those tight spaces where they can get Samurai Day a huge amount of cleave damage. Anakin can just slash through all of them. But look, Flash Wolves already moving up to that high ground.
Oh, De La V getting caught with his pants down right there. Dropping already out of this fight without the rest of his team around him. And now Flash Wolves looking to clean up the rest of these DeToNator players now as they're completely split out. Dodolov has no one to help him out there. What is going on here? Anakin finding himself a couple of trades now, but he will be instantly pressured by Jongi, getting taken down there as well. And now Flash Wolves going to be getting this first cap extremely quickly unless DeToNator can move with extreme haste back to this point now.
There's no way DeToNator make it back to this point to realistically contest this Flash Wolves unless DeToNator actually get at least one more kill here, which it doesn't look like it's going to happen. DeToNator are going to have to back off and try and get back to the point. Now, they could have actually not had a huge snowball coming at them on point 2 if they'd backed off a little bit earlier, but Flash Wolves have just got basically double the kills that they could have been looking at. Moving on to point 2, now Flash Wolves definitely in the lead in terms of ultimates. They've got a sound barrier, which is a big one going into it. But talked about those 2 trade backs that Anakin got during that fight. That's enough to get his Dragon Blade. That might be enough to actually win the fight here. But at the same time, when Flash Wolves are coming in with a sound barrier, that's enough for his team to stay alive during Anakin's Dragon Blade that it might not even matter. So Anakin, perhaps he needs to recognize this. Never mind, he's going in anyway.
He goes straight in there, and if they take him down, which indeed they do, that's going to be huge for Flash Wolves. Now is their moment. They need to push in right now. They've got all these ultimates to work with there. It's going to be Samurai D hitting the Primal Rage. There comes the Pulse Bomb out from Saihate. He doesn't find anything. Will he get taken down? Not just yet, but a couple of his teammates will. And now Zonda and his mate Zhongyi just pushing onto the point. Look at this, 6 ultimates in hand as well. And Flash Wolves playing this off ends perfectly right now. The Dragon Blade just wiping up DeLaV as he tries to get in there and contest. Now, all the players here on the point just capping. Zhongyi sleeping on the job. He's not too worried about that one. Samurai D won't be long for this world here. And that's going to be all she wrote there. Flash Wolves just picking that one up very cleanly, taking out the series 3-0.
That's more what I'm talking about demolishing DeToNator right there. There was no hope for DeToNator to come back in, and we could see Flash Wolves were just punishing their mistakes. Anakin goes in too aggressively with the Dragon Blade. I was saying, that's their hope to win this fight, to defend the point. And he goes in so aggressively, of course he's going to be shut down straight away.
I mean, this is surely got to be Zonda's 4-man blade here. I mean, coming off the back, I believe, of the sound barrier that you mentioned as well, which really sort of pushed him through this fight here. And Zonda, look at the, I guess, pure sort of skill that he has when he plays Genji.
Yep, it's those sword blades.
Well, he knows where he's going. He can sort of see he's got 360-degree vision, I feel, you know. He can just see everything around him.
The eyes on the back of his head, and the side.
And the sides. And every other little angle that he's missing as well.
And the northeast, the southwest side, everywhere. In fact, it's just one tactical visor around his head, like a headband.
Speaking of sleeping on the job, man, whew, wow, that was a... No, but so far, I think just Sombra just had a 0% success rate so far in this particular matchup. I want to throw a bone out to Flash Wolves to say, for them it was less so about the picks they made and rather the execution of what they were trying to do there. So, had they had maybe try to go for an EMP play on the actual point itself, baited DeToNator play on the actual, and then EMP'd on the middle of the cap, where you have your other members who are defensively still on the high ground, they can shoot down as the cap as well. Where they actually play the EMP, which is near the actual entrance, they had no real support. They were sort of backed up into a little choke themselves. Yeah, you EMP, but look, Anakin doesn't need abilities to headshot you, which is exactly what he did. He just got lots of shots down, headshots were in there, body shots were in there, but his damage output was insane. He doesn't care about EMP in that sort of situation. And the rest of Flash Wolves, they're still waiting on the high ground. They're like, I can't even help you guys. EMP's way over there. I don't have a sight line. So you're playing like a 3v or a 4v6 into a choke without the help of your team, even with EMP.
I think one thing to sort of note about that as well is like, Flash Wolves could have played that better, but I think, if they had a better start coming off the start of that, better start off the start, because they picked that kill up onto Bacon Jack extremely quickly, DeToNator, which allowed them to get around to the side there, and take out, I believe it was Zonda on the Genji up on the high ground very, very early. So if I think Bacon Jack was allowed to live through that sort of first engagement and, DeToNator pushed their way through, and then Bacon Jack is consistently, I guess, harassing from behind, and they can build that EMP faster, the EMP probably would have been ready when they got up onto that high ground push when they were all sort of stacked up there. So I just want to say, I guess, like, really well played by DeToNator to sort of, I guess, charge their way through there as a big unit, hit that flashbang onto Bacon Jack, pick up that early kill there. But yeah, Flash Wolves, I guess, playing a little bit from the back foot after losing Bacon Jack. And I guess you can see as well.
There was Zonda as well, like very quickly to the headshot as well, from following a flashbang.
So you can see how important these two players are, obviously, to the side of Flash Wolves. Some of these other teams are very, very good, I think. Even if they lose their DPS players, I'm going to use AHQ as the example here.
Yeah, I was going to say the same thing. Lose Dizzy, look, the other 5 members pick up the pace.
Exactly that. And when it comes to, I guess, Flash Wolves, that is something, I guess, that is one of their biggest weaknesses moving forward, is definitely looking at some of the, I guess, the 4 other players. Not saying they're definitely not bad. They're by far, like, some of the best skilled players in this entire tournament, but they really need to elevate themselves to the level of Zonda and even Bacon Jack as well, just so that Flash Wolves can have a little bit of a fallback, a little bit of breathing room when 1 or 2 of these players get taken down early.
In their defense, though, I mean, they still, as 4 people left after Zonda had died to that headshot, right? They still held out long enough for Bacon Jack to actually return all the way from the second point and respawn. Now, he's a tracer, so he gets there pretty quickly, but that's still a fair run back. So yeah, they're still losing fights after they lose their DPS, but I mean, still, that's a 6v4 advantage that the enemy team has, as well as allowing them to get the positioning as well. So most teams still expected to actually lose that there, and like you could see how Flash Wolves were trying to contest that high ground after they lost Bacon Jack. They were still trying to take it off of them, but when you've got a McCree up there, anyone who's going to arrive up there, whether it's a Diva or a Genji, you're going to get flashbanged, deflect, you just throw it above his head like we saw. And, Defense Matrix, that's cool, I guess, but like now you're up there with the rest of the team, they're ready to take you down, so.
I guess it just comes down to those little sort of, those tiny little moments. I think this is something I'm going to probably use for the rest of the tournament, it's that little 1% difference. When Lazy Titan maybe doesn't just go charging in, for example, and just Defense Matrix on, off. The angle he might take or the route he might take that buys them, the extra 2 seconds. Like going back to Control there when Samurai D was there to stagger the point and he leaps in and he hits the Primal Rage but dies instantly. I mean, that's the sort of difference there, because most Winstons that think, okay, I've got Primal Rage, I can stagger this point even against, 4 players by myself just for a little bit of time there. But I mean, Samurai D just leapt into his doom there, didn't buy them enough time, and now they don't have Primal Rage. And I mean, that just shows, I guess, the level of difference from, the Winston play coming out from DeToNator even compared to Flash Wolves. And then I think, looking at Flash Wolves, that's where they have to make the biggest improvements there. Not so much their DPS, but just the smaller, I guess, decisions that the rest of the team make even when the DPS is alive.
It's also the trade-offs as well. I mean, going back to your example of Samurai D jumping onto the control point just to contest it for, I think you got maybe 10%, like at best, using Primal Rage. You're handing over a lot of ultimate charge to the enemy team, especially giving up your own ultimate to do so. Now, that was when they were at about 40%, I think. So like, not a huge difference getting that extra 10%. Now, if it was going from 80% to 90% on the point, then suddenly that's putting you in a position to win one more fight and essentially win. When you cap the point at 90%, if it's clean enough, you just win. If it's still mostly on your side, it puts the other team in desperation mode, and 90% is a great position to take the point in. Now, that decision, it would have been correct to jump in and throw out your ultimate. Yeah, it's losing one resource, giving over a lot to the enemy team, but at the same time, you're setting yourself up for a very easy win once you finally cap the point. But in the position that they did it, it was literally just giving away so much ultimate charge.
I mean, a little part of me, I want to say, to speak to, I guess, the Flash Wolves in the sense of, I'm really hoping they were holding back a little bit in this matchup here, not to give anything away, because obviously their next matchup is going to be Flash Wolves taking on Blank Esports, and Flash Wolves will have the home side advantage, so maybe throwing a little bit of, I guess, a spanner in the works with maybe some of their picks there. Maybe they do go with Oasis for Control, for example, as you sort of mentioned there. So I think that, well, I'd like to think that Flash Wolves maybe held a little bit back in this series here, because I think if they play the way they just played against DeToNator, they are going to get 3-0'd by Blank.
Yeah, I've got to agree with that. Oasis, I'd say probably will come out against Blank. Blank have shown a little bit more weakness on that map than other ones, but at the same time, not a huge amount of difference there. So I still think Control can kind of go either way, but then you move into Hybrid, which is going to be Blank's pick. I mean, what are they going to pick there? Numbani against Flash Wolves? Like, that had a good result last time they played against each other, but it's also a map that Flash Wolves are pretty happy to play themselves.
I think they're going to pick, I'd like to think they're going to pick Kings Row, just because of, I guess, the little bit of struggle they had last night on Kings Row against, well, not a little bit, they had a struggle, they lost. So
they failed to cap the first point.
So there was a definite struggle. I think they need practice, especially against some of these better teams on Kings Row, just to get a little bit more comfortable. I don't think they're allowed to have, maybe alloved's not the right word, but they can't come in feeling any kind of, nervousness when they play Kings Row there. They really need to nail out the issues that they have when it comes to Kings Row. So I think they need to pick Kings Row tonight just to start reiterating, I guess, the strength that they should have on Kings Row that they look like they had in the first couple of weeks.
I mean, that's an option for them, sure. But if you're looking to practice on a map, there's plenty of opportunities to do that outside of the live games themselves, the games that actually matter, right? When you're coming in today, you're coming in just to win, and that's it. Now, there's other things to be said, like maybe you pick Numbani just to not only pick it because it's one of your favorite maps, but also maybe demoralize Flash Wolves a little bit, because we know that Flash Wolves do like picking Numbani. They've picked it up against other teams, and I mean, heck, first week they picked it up against Blank and got a bit of a shock. So Blank do that again, pick it up against Flash Wolves once more and just demolish them on it. First hold them, then Flash Wolves. I mean, that's a bit of a mental thing as well. Playing on the home turf as well. You're playing in the live Taiwan studio with a live Taiwan crowd cheering for you because you're the home team. And Flash Wolves pick your favorite map demolish you on it, that's a hit.
But I think that's the main point as to why they need to pick Kings Row, because they need to play Kings Row on the stage, in front of the crowd, against a team that's playing to win, not just, you know, in a scrim where teams might be holding something back, trying things out. That's where they really need to sort of have that practice. But yes, we have just seen Flash Wolves take down DeToNator.GOLD in quite convincing fashion, 3-0. Next up is going to be Flash Wolves taking on Blank Esports after the break.